been sitting here thinking a lot about what's really going on and what needs to be said. And the one thing I keep coming back to is fear. Guys, talk. We're always talking. We'll be in our friend groups and we'll talk about how we met the baddest dude, and even after we may have hooked up, we'll talk about how great the sex was, and we'll talk about how fun the conquest was. But when things get a little real, we'll be afraid. It'll be hard for us to ask our friends, did you use a condom? Did you talk about HIV? In the event that you didn't, do you know what to do and where to go so you can obtain the PEP medicine to reduce your chances of contracting the HIV virus? We may move on to our next conquest, and we'll be in that situation with our prospective partner, and we'll get afraid again, and we will let this fear keep us from asking, do you know your status? Have you been tested? Do you have condoms? Afraid to assert that you may want to use a condom. And then we see how fear really hinders us, and it's interesting because, like, the one thing that I think we fail to consider is that we're all afraid a little bit. No one wants to face rejection, and we know how it is. We've been there. We see the way that there's so much imagery devoted to HIV in our communities, but it doesn't feel real until it's right there in our face. And once we get scared, that can even hinder us from going and getting the test to find out what our status is, because once we have those results, it's real. It's not fun and games anymore. What I think needs to really be said is that it's okay for you to be afraid. It's hard to admit you're afraid, but we can't let this fear hinder us from having these conversations, because when we have these conversations with our friends, with our partners, they go and they pass on that information, and they have those conversations.